Hello everyone, How To Bob here, and I made this video to show you how to change the AC blower or fan motor in an LG through the wall air conditioning unit. You can hear that this unit is very loud running. And that indicates bearings are going out. So I'm going to start by taking out the filter here, and then I'm going to remove the screw that's behind the cover in the front of the unit. Once I take this screw out, I can then pop the front cover off of the unit, and it just spreads apart and there's little clips on each side. Next I'm going to go around the perimeter of the case and remove all these screws here, here, and here. Then I'm going to go around to the other side of the unit and remove the screws on this side here, here, and here. Once I get all the screws out on the sides, there is one screw left on the top here. I'll just remove that one, and then I can remove the cover, the outside case of the whole air conditioning unit, and set that off to the side. Next I'm going to remove the brace by removing these screws here, and this just holds the two halves of the air conditioner together. Next I'm going to remove the cover screw here. It's underneath some insulation, so I have to peel the insulation back a little bit, and once I take that screw out, it's just clipped on the other side, so I can then remove the cover by pulling up on the clip. Then I'm going to go around the outside of the air conditioner and start removing all the screws that are holding all the pieces together so that I can get this thing all the way apart. And there's some screws that are way down in deep where the motor is held into place. Kind of tight down inside here, so let me see if I can show you which ones I'm talking about. There's a few on each side. And basically what we're trying to do is make two separate units here, the front and the back of the air conditioning unit, so we can separate it. Now I got these cover here, so I'll remove these screws on the cover. Once I take these out, I can separate this cover from the coils. You know, you want to be gentle on the coils. You don't want to damage the coils or anything, but it does need to be separated somewhat so that we can get the fan off of the motor. See the spring clip here holding the fan onto the motor shaft, and just use a pair of pliers, and it's a spring-loaded clip, so it just slides right off. Next I'm going to gently pry the fan off of the motor shaft, and I want to work that side to side, and once I get that off you can see how the clip goes around the fan here. And then I want to separate the front part, the little styrofoam insulation part, from the coils in the front. Just work it back and forth real slow and gently. And I got to get to the fan on the inside. You can see it's got the same clip here as the back one. So I'm going to reach inside and use the pliers to take the spring clip off, and here we have the spring clip. Then I want to use my screwdriver again and pry the front blower fan off of the motor shaft. Once I get that off there, I can go ahead and pull my motor out. And the motor is plugged into a plug inside the control unit here, so I'll have to take this screw out. This is the cover for the wire. So once I take that out, all it's left to do is unplug the connector here, just a simple plug in, and then I can pull my wire back through the unit to remove the fan motor. Now you can hear the old motor and tell that the bearings are bad compared to the new one, so we know that's it. So I'm going to remove the screws here, 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 and here that are holding the motor to the bracket, because I'll reuse the bracket and screws. The new fan motor. Next I want to take my new motor and feed the wire through the bracket, and I want to make sure that I get my motor lined up. You can see there's little cutouts that the motor kind of sits in right here. So once I line that up, I can go ahead and put my screws in and tighten down my new motor to the bracket. Okay, now that I have my new motor in place, I can start the rebuild process. Take my motor and slide it back in. I want to make sure it's lined up pretty close to where it was before, and I can route my wires back through. And I can even plug that in if I want to at this point. I'll put the little cover back on here. Just be something less I'll have to do a little bit later. Next I'm going to put my blower fan back in, and I use the spring clip. It just slides right over there, so I'll take my blower fan and slide it in and line it up, and I want to push that all the way onto the shaft of the motor, as deep as it'll go. Then I can put my spring clip on and slide that all the way in. Then I can put the front part of my unit back together, slide that back together, and get it kind of ready to be put back together. And you can see I got to line up the holes and make sure it spins and doesn't hit anything. Next I'm going to put my back fan on using the same spring clip that I took it off, and I want to slide that down in between my cover and the coils here and slide it onto the motor shaft. And again, I want to push that in as far as I can. That'll give me proper alignment when it comes time to putting everything back together. So I get that out of the way, I put my spring clip on, make sure it's in all the way, and it's going to get a good holding power there. I can slide my cover back over top of the coils and get that inside of the bottom, the base of the unit. And once I get everything lined up, I can go ahead and start putting the screws back in the cover over the coil. Next I'm going to put the bracket that holds the front and the back together, and I'm going to put the front two screws in for now. Basically just going around the unit, putting all the screws that I had taken out, putting them all back together. And I'll start putting other screws back in, the one that holds the front part together. Next I'm going to screw the front part of the unit to the base. That way everything will be in line, and I can now tighten my motor down with these two here, and then I'll have two more on the opposing side of the motor to screw down. Once I get those tightened up, wouldn't be a bad time to check the motor, and it looks like it's spinning pretty good without rubbing on anything, so I know I'm good to go, and I can continue reassembling the unit. Got another screw over here that I got to put in over towards the compressor control unit. Some of these screws are kind of hard to get to, way down in here. And then I'm going to get the screw over on the other side here, make sure everything's tightened up, and put my cover back on the top of the coils, and the one screw for the bracket that slides in between, and then we got the other screw for the bracket that slides in between. So now that my unit's coming most of the way back together, I can give it a little spin here, and you can see that it spins freely. And I've got a few more screws to put in here to put it back together. Make sure all the screws are back in where they belong. And put my cover screw on now. And before I put it back together, I'm going to get some foamy coil cleaner, and I'll just spray this stuff on there, and it just runs down through the coils and keeps them clean. I might as well do that while I have this open. I can get to it real easy. I'll do the front and the back coils and let that stuff foam up and sit a while, and once that's done, I'll have a nice, clean, cool running unit. I might as well, since I just put a new motor in, it's not a bad idea. So now I've got it all back together, cleaned up, and ready to go. Put the cover back on and just line it up. There's a little cage in the back that needs to be put on before the top gets put together. Make sure everything's lined up real good. And then I can start putting all the screws back in. I'll start with the 3 along the bottom on the side. And then I'll go to the one up on the side. And there's one on the very top that gets put in. And then I'll go around to the opposite side of the unit and start screwing all the screws in on the opposite side. Should be 4 on each side, 1 on the top. And then I got to get my front cover and fit that into place. And there's a little adjustment, a vent adjustment thing here I have to line up to get to go through the little hole in the vent. See if I can get that lined up. There it is. So then this just clips into place, and there's one last screw to put in here. And then it's time to power my unit up. Put the filter in and close the hatch and turn my unit on, and let's see how it sounds. I'm How To Bob. Thanks for watching.